This May marks the beginning of a lot of themes that will characterize the rest of the year, if not into around the 2022 period. And even though the term is being thrown around a lot, this May really is ingraining in us a sense of the new normal that is going to be carried forth. If you are excited to dive into what the month of May 2020 has in store for us, indicated through the astrology, and then get into some tarot and some oracle card insight at the end, make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you are always up to date with what the stars have in store for you. Hi, I'm Maren. I am an astrologer, a witch, and a philosophy student. I combine traditional Hellenistic astrological techniques with modern psychological counseling dynamics in order to provide grounded spiritual guidance. Quick plug for my upcoming Astrology Academy course. If you are watching this, then my course is about to start later this month. It starts May 24th. This is an 8-week intro to astrology course covering the vast foundations of astrology, taking you from zero to hero, from just starting out either confused or misinformed or ready to excitedly dive into astrology, into leaving confident and awakened and aware of how to speak the language of the cosmos. So if you are interested in this upcoming Astrology Academy, again, it's 8 weeks starting May 24th. Check out the link down below. Would love to have you inquire about maybe aligning with the course. And I have already made videos, forecasts for each rising sign for the month of May. So the playlist will be linked down below. Make sure that after this video, you go ahead and watch your specific rising sign to see what this May is specifically going to show up energetically for you as. So starting out on the 1st, we have a Mercury-Uranus conjunction in Taurus, and this aspect starts the month out with a bang. I wouldn't be surprised if the month is starting out with some sort of information around the world impact of the current climate coming to light, some tangible information like some demographic information that makes things really clear and might be surprising or spontaneous in some way. Mercury and Uranus in Taurus is like grounded information bursts. So there might be some tangible factual evidence coming to light on the 1st. If you're watching this after that first date, you might know what I'm talking about, and this might have already manifested. Also on the 1st, Venus in Gemini is squaring Neptune in Pisces, so some of the harmony in the world or some of the pleasures or female figures in the world might be a bit diluted or a bit confused right now. The way in which we're socializing online, the way that like we're Zooming and FaceTiming a lot, there might be some confusion or collective deception going on that is our decision whether or not to face along the lines of the way that we're interacting with others in that relationship context. On the 4th, there's then a Sun-Mercury cazimi in Taurus. So cazimis indicate an illumination around truth. They indicate something coming to light. The Sun and Mercury are conjoining, and with that conjunction, it signals that some information is becoming known. There's some clarity around a subject. So with it in Taurus, again, I wouldn't be surprised if there's clarity around themes regarding the Earth, regarding tangible demographics, around things such as like census or overall tangible data. I wouldn't be surprised if something comes out along those lines around the 4th. On the 7th, there is then a full moon in Scorpio. I have a full video on this full moon linked down below that you can watch. This full moon is definitely one of volcanic or volatile emotions making themselves known and us having the choice to work through them or not. I'd recommend watching that full video because it's a high point collectively around the emotional chasms that we're going through right now, and that unrest or upheaval really reaching a breaking point. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the social distancing protests make themselves known and might culminate or be very condemned during this time. On the 9th, Mercury in Taurus will then trine Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn, which is a beautiful aspect of the collective communication being enhanced towards abundant optimism and also transformation. So words around the beginning of the month near the 9th will approach an energy of encouragement towards living up to our fullest potential as citizens of the Earth in this current climate. On the 11th, though, Mercury in Taurus will then square Mars in Aquarius. So quickly after that, there might be some sort of fear-mongering or collective dynamics around partisanship that do become infiltrated. So nearing the middle of the month, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the harmonious communication turns into a more partisan issue. On the 11th, Saturn in Aquarius will station retrograde. I have a full video on the transit of Saturn in Aquarius through the whole, 3 years that it will be there, linked down below. This is important though because Saturn just entered Aquarius and its retrograde cycle is now meaning that it's about to re-enter Capricorn. So not to think that Saturn is leaving Aquarius necessarily, but it is dipping out and re-entering Capricorn. So some of these social distancing measures that we've seen are probably going to be drawn back for a limited period of time before the resurgence of the virus that will obviously come once we do lay back a little, as we go through this kind of like dance of distancing. And then I've heard it called laying down the hammer and dancing around it, kind of that way of having to go through waves of the social distancing. You can watch my videos all on the coronavirus because this is definitely an indicator that I'm using towards the distancing measures. Those videos will be linked down below if you want to get the full ins and outs about the current climate and my predictions and the data I'm backing that up with based on the astrology. On the 12th, Mercury will then enter Gemini and trine Saturn in Aquarius. So I see this as a good thing for Mercury. Mercury is entering its home sign, and immediately it's entering an aspect of harmony with the planet that has recently turned retrograde in its home sign. So this air trine, I think, is meaning that this is going to be the collective communication of restrictions being lifted in a supportive way that facilitates the first dance of laying off some of the restrictions. I don't necessarily expect this to come in places where I am, like New York, where the citizens are very on board with the distancing right now in New York. I see this more as in certain areas, there are certain lines that are stepped back in acknowledgement that this is around structural little by little and then ramping back up in that way. But the communication and the boundaries are very, very harmoniously together around this time. On the 13th, Mars will then enter Pisces. Mars entering Pisces can signal a collective energy towards spiritual action, towards trying to raise the collective morale in a way that is severing thought structures that no longer serve us. So Mars is entering the home of Jupiter, and Jupiter happens to be in its fall. So we might be cutting away thoughts that don't support some of the lack of resources we have, like some of the fear-mongering or the conspiracy theories. I think there'll be an uprising against some of the bullshit during this month, to be frank, with some of the Mercury-Saturn issues earlier on, and Mars entering Pisces, like cutting away some of the unnecessary theoretical understandings of this virus as a means of just taking away from collective energy at hand. On the 13th as well, Venus in Gemini is stationing retrograde. This is a marker for a whole paradigm around Venus in Gemini and its retrograde. I'm going to do a full video on this after recording this one in the days to come, so I will link that down below once it's out. Do check back if you're watching this in the beginning of the month and that video is not already out. If you're watching this near the middle of May, I'm sure that my Venus in Gemini retrograde video will already be out. But Venus in Gemini stationing retrograde is indicating a rethinking around the communication and relationships for the next around 4 months. There's going to be a big reanalysis of the way in which we converse, we exchange ideas, and we harmonize intellectually on a one-to-one level. This is not a Venus retrograde that I'm particularly scared of or worried about. I mean, it's in the home of Mercury, while Mercury is also in its home. So it's kind of like we have the resources necessary to look back at our relationships during this time, but there will still be an air of, whoa, I need to reanalyze the way that I'm contextualizing my relationship with others, because this really is a new normal for the foreseeable future, because even as we get past this first wave of the coronavirus and of the COVID-19 outbreak, these restrictions are not tangibly going to be lifted until obviously we have a vaccine or a foreseeable cure. There'll be that hammer and the dance, as I mentioned. On the 14th, Jupiter in Capricorn is stationing retrograde. Full video on this Jupiter in Capricorn transit linked down below for the rest of 2020. But Jupiter in Capricorn stationing retrograde is also an indication of the reversal of a spread of something mortal. Jupiter in Capricorn is in its fall. It's indicating that Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is in a sign that it's not particularly in affinity with, because Capricorn rules the tangible, the initiation of earthly matters, of the pragmatic matters. Jupiter wants to expand and grow and be abundant, and Capricorn wants to structure down to be rooted. So that's why Jupiter in Capricorn is kind of like the spread of that which eliminates or roots down. With Jupiter stationing retrograde, I think this is also kind of like the spread of the virus is not at this point as intense as it once was, and then I foresee it in the future once Jupiter stations retrograde. I have a hair in my eye, sorry, but we're going to keep talking so I don't have to edit this much. I see this as being, you know, the first wave is dying down, things are reversing, and then there will be another wave to come up in the months to come, probably in the fall or winter months, once we are out in the open a bit more, and this will obviously resurge. Again, full videos on the COVID-19 situation are down below. I've had a lot of research done around that, and like historical, I put a lot of effort into those. Watch them. Anyway, moving on, 14th as well, the Sun in Taurus is trining Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn. This is another great aspect where the earth signs are being in trine, because Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn together right now is the expansion of crisis, elimination, deteriorating themes. Like, what is expanding is a crisis of mortality. With the Sun in trine and in harmony with that, there's an illumination of authority figures being able to act effectively. So we might really be seeing the governors. I'm not going to say the president because there's no way he's going to fit this ideal authority. You know where my political views lie, obviously, if you're watching this. But this isn't, the Sun can represent collective authority figures or like the people in power at hand. In trine with the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, this is them stepping up to the plate as a grounded Taurus fixed earth figure in handling the way in which the crisis is expanding. On the 21st, then the Sun enters Gemini and trine Saturn and Aquarius, another indicator of our awareness of the limitations, being on board with how we want to uphold those. So I know that like here in New York, there's like a 95% agreement rating with the social distancing, like in the shutdown, everyone is on board with that right now. I see this as further cooperation on the part of the individuals in the group, Gemini Sun, with the authority figures and the structures at hand for the collective, Saturn and Aquarius, and being on board with some of the lifting that will inevitably take our cooperation to uphold little by little as we then will return to more restrictive measures back and forth again. On the 22nd, Mercury is conjoining Venus and Gemini and squaring Neptune and Pisces. So this is a definitive time as well around the 22nd, where Venus conjoining Mercury during its, or Mercury conjoining Venus during its retrograde cycle is illuminating the aha moment of what needs to change in our relational dynamics. But with it square to Neptune, it's a decision to self-delude and lie to ourselves or break the fantasy for our better good and for our utmost health. So that's something that's going to happen nearing the end of the month. We're realizing things coming to light around the reanalysis of relationships that are going to take some work or some mental deciding on our part not to lie to ourselves about. Finally, on the 22nd, at the same time, there's a new moon in Gemini, so a new beginning around the conversation of intellectual stimulation and one-to-one level ideological exchange. There's a full video on this new moon down below. It's definitely a powerfully cerebral new moon that deals with the newness around consideration of the individual. So I do recommend you watch that down below to get an idea for you, your rising sign, where it's going to be with you. Watch that video and watch your forecast to know where it's going to be for you. And with that being said, how is this month starting out for you? Most of you were probably watching it in the beginning of May. What is your collective feeling around the abrasive energy now being kind of the new normal, and how you are rooting down in this fixed earth way of Taurus energy for the rest of the season? So now that we have the astrology out of the way, let's pull a tarot card to see what tarot card is coming up for May 2020. So it's funny, actually, we pulled the Six of Pentacles, and the Six of Pentacles corresponds with the second decan of Taurus, the second third of Taurus, and it's called the Lord of Success, actually. It deals with the celebration of Beltane. It's about slow and steady building up in a way that generates appreciation and celebration around it. It's moral and material success at the same time. So I see this as a signal of the progress that we have made on a material level due to the moral upholding of the certain dynamics in our lives during May. So with the tarot card now out of the way, let's pull a final Work Your Light Oracle deck card for May 2020 for some collective guidance. Pillar of light, your vibration is rising, you are the oracle. So this is a reminder that as we go within and really uphold these distancing measures, and then as we return back to little by little relaxing of those distancings, we can still uphold that vibration that we fine-tuned so delicately in the alone time, and we can see every chance of us self-isolating as a potential return to that inner divinity that will reach out and influence others as we have this dance with reunions little by little. So with that being said, let me know down below, like, if you enjoy this, how you're feeling about this May, any energies coming up, where this is in your chart, what you think I might have missed, or any interpretations you have. Love to have a discussion and to know. Check out my Astrology Academy down below if you are enchanted by this language of the cosmos and you are interested in launching philosophically, astrologically, and self-development-wise into understanding the structure of reality. I am psyched to be teaching this. This is the only time I will ever be teaching this live, because after this I will be recording the course to be downloadable. So if you want to do this with me, talk to me live, private Facebook group, weekly meetings with me, 2-hour lessons each week. Check that out down below. Otherwise, like, subscribe, comment any thoughts. Sending so much love during this time. I will see you in the next one.
There is one thing